I came across this graphic the other day that I thought was brilliant. It was just like a pile of Legos, and it was like, here's your data. And then the Legos were sorted by color. It was like, here is your data sorted. And then the Legos ultimately built a house. And it was like, and now here's a story that your data is telling. If you can take that data and tell the story, it's so impactful.
Being a storyteller and connecting those quantitative to qualitative, that's an absolute fire moment right there. That's absolutely fire. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Collectiv Conversations. I'm really excited today to be joined by Melissa Hurrington. She's the CFO and VP of Operations at Premier Claims. Melissa, welcome to Collectiv Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm super excited.
This is going to be the ultimate guide from accounting to CFO. So to kick things off, when you look back over your career, what was the turning point for you where you were like, this accounting is not going to be the future. I need to be thinking about finance. I need to be thinking about my road to CFO. Like, what was that transition period for you?
I started in public accounting, and I knew public accounting wasn't going to be a fit for me because nobody was ever excited to see me as an auditor.
Oh.
Ever. You walked in and it was like, oh, the auditor's here. And that just slowly crushed my soul. Where it became love for me and this switch into more of that finance side was I worked at Levy restaurants.
Nice.
Their food and beverage hospitality for large entertainment venues. So my office became backstage at a Lady Gaga concert or March Madness basketball game. Like, you cannot get any better than that of a scenario. And I fell in love with like the data side of things because I spent so much time just kind of immersed in the analytics within that space of what happens to beer sales at a Toby Keith concert when it rains outside. How does that impact things? I fell in love with this analytics side of things, the more forward focus of finance versus the retro reporting of old information. I took my analysis from this back end to let's do this analysis on the front end before the event happens and see how that can affect our revenue or how much it could control our food and beverage costs. And that, it filled my cup. It made my heart soar. And that's where I found myself really kind of swinging that pendulum towards that finance side of things.
I love your point. I want to go a little bit deeper into that analytical side that you talked about, because I think analytics, when you think of finance, you think of FP&A, right? You start getting into technologies, but what do you think, when you think about the analytical framework for modern finance or modern CFO professionals, what are some of those technical and maybe some of those soft skills that they need to increase that analytical mindset?
You just got to get into it. It's a muscle. You got to keep doing it to build that muscle, and then it becomes less strenuous. From a soft skill standpoint, the most important thing, I think, for anyone who wants a finance career is to be a brilliant storyteller. You could do the most incredible, detailed analysis of anything, but if you can't communicate it, it's not going to go anywhere. I came across this graphic the other day that I thought was brilliant. It was just like a pile of Legos, and it was like, here's your data. And then the Legos were sorted by color. It was like, here is your data sorted. And then the Legos ultimately built a house. And it was like, and now here's a story that your data is telling. If you can take that data and tell the story, it's so impactful. And that is both the quantitative and qualitative things. And I go back to the Levy restaurants gig because I think a lot of people can kind of wrap their mind around it because we've all been to events. You go to an event and you're maybe analyzing something after the fact, and you do have all of those quantitative details, but the qualitative of what if somebody is coming to a concert and maybe it's a female dominated audience and it's raining outside and you're walking through that rain, your sales are going to go down because all of the women go to the restroom and to go fix their outfit, fix their hair instead of the beer line. And now they're only going to circle through the line one time instead of twice, and that's going to affect your numbers. Being able to communicate that to other people is what is next level.
Being a storyteller and connecting those quantitative to qualitative, that's an absolute fire moment right there. That's absolutely fire. Taking it a step further on the storytelling side, because I think that's so important, what would be some of tips and tricks and hacks that you would give accounting, finance, FP&A professionals that want to upskill their storytelling that they can go implement?
Google it,
Yeah.
right? Google storytelling or watch any of it. If there's somebody that you just find yourself like just magnetically attracted to, like you have such a great energy, and I could tell that you could excite anyone about what you're talking about, right? That and just pick up on those things. They all interweave. Or see within your own team of who you're talking to, like as you mentioned, the sales team, go into the sales team and sit in on their meetings and listen to them talk shop or whatever it is, and then mirror it. So just absorbing, being a sponge, and then make it you. For me, it's going to be high energy. I'm a metaphor person. I'm a sports fanatic. So if I will find a way to relate it back to some type of sport event or anything else, I always will in every situation. And that tends to land with quite a few people, and it doesn't with others. Sometimes like basketball, the orange thing, it bounces. That's what we're talking about here. People come off the bench. But just whatever, it just find, it needs to be authentic. It needs to be you. Because if it's forced and you're trying to get a point across, you're doing too much. But so just work on it. It's practice, find ways to stretch that muscle, and then just keep absorbing. It's around you everywhere.
When I tell a story, right, I use a framework that a lot of people use. It's called the STAR approach, right?
Yeah.
Situation, task, action, and response, right? It helps keep me like focus of like, okay, here's the situation that I had, here's what I did, here's what the actions that I've done and led, and here's what the results were.
Yeah.
But I put my spin on it by like having that cliffhanger moment, right? Where you can change your body language, you can change your cadence, you can change your pitch, you can change your emotion. There's so many different ways that you can play around with telling a story, but your number one advice that I absolutely think is 100% spot on, you have to be authentic and you have to be you. What have been some common like pitfalls, challenges? What would be some of those insights?
I struggled at first. It sounds like a huge ego to say that, but it's just me being really transparent and honest about it, that I found them going to my team members and they were the go-to. And it kind of hit me a little bit.
Oh, wow.
That not being needed by the broader company as a whole took me a bit to get used to. That was just like a struggle for me going to that. And then I wouldn't say I was a terrible delegator, but I was not a great delegator, and it was not a lack of trust. In fact, I knew people on my team could probably do a better job at a lot of them than me. It was this kind of mama bear wanting to protect. I don't want to overwhelm them. I don't want to put too much on their plates. I don't want them to ever think I'm asking them to do it because I'm above it now. It was all this whole soundtrack in my head. And then every time I delegated it down to them, and you'd get the reception of like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is exciting. Oh, I can't wait to dig into this. And then they'd come back and produce something that was 4 times better. And I'm like, I should have delegated this a million years ago. Like, why am I hoarding on to these things?
Yeah, those are 2 big ones. Thanks you for sharing that. Being needed and then the delegation aspect of them. Those are 2 really, really important. I think for me, like just to add on to what you said, my struggles were like, I was so used to winning, right? I was so used to just like, I was so used to getting up, and we have a sports analogy, right? I was so used to getting up to the plate and knocking out grand slam home runs and hitting it like 500 feet and, walking around the bases and just like prancing around like, yeah, I'm the man, right? And when I got to be a team, like I was like, those wins were few and far between, right? Like it was not about me winning. It was about me like putting my team in a position for them to succeed, right? One of my great mentors, he sat down with me and he was like, Chris, once you stepped into leadership, you have traded me for we. From this point from your career forward, you're not going to have those grand slam home runs. Your job is to put your team in a position to win the game. You're the coach now, right? And the second place that I fell to was like, if they came to me with a problem, I always felt like it was my job as the leader, as the manager of the team, to solve their problems, right? And I remember one of my direct reports, she was a business manager. She sat down with me and she was like, look, Chris, I'm not looking for the solution to the problem. I'm looking to make sure you listen, you hear me, and like I have an audience and connection to be able to do that. And when I stopped and like when they came with me and I was like, okay, I hear you. Like I'll work on empowering you and giving you everything you need to be successful and go be great, right? Like
Yeah.
it was so much about that. And when I started to really like transition my thinking and my management style, my leading style, it really opened me up because like now it was not about the spotlight of being on me. The spotlight was about the
Right.
team and like making that impact. So
Hey, you know who I think is one of the most underrated and impactful people in college football is the strength and conditioning coach of Alabama.
ooh, expand on that. I love that point. I love it.
He's not out there scoring touchdowns, but what a absolute utility knife they have on that team. That national championships have been built at Alabama by their strength and conditioning coach. Accounting and finance, I view very much as a strength and conditioning coach.
Boom.
I will make sure that my team is prepared for game day. And that's very much kind of how I view my role in leadership. I'm a servant leader at heart. I work for my team, not the other way around. And kind of like what you were saying, I feel as though my job is to stay out ahead of them. You guys keep your pace. So yeah, it's hard. You want to score the touchdowns. Every kid does. Every kid wants to be the quarterback.
I love it. That's another fire moment right there. Finance, accounting, FP&A, and CFOs, we're the strength and conditioning coaches to our business partners and our organizations. I absolutely love that. So one final question I want to get your thoughts on is like, what are your top 3 like predictions or bets that you want to place for the office of the CFO this year?
Ooh, bets. This is going to be recorded and it's going to be out there
This is
so you
new
can
because
play
I'm
it
gonna
back.
go back. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna write these down, and everybody listening's gonna write these down, and they're gonna message you on LinkedIn and be like, 3 out of 3, Melissa got them right.
The pressure there is very real, but for sure, I think the office of the CFO is going to continue to be more and more and more out front. It's not this, suit and tie in the corner office that's kind of untouched and nobody talks to them and is a little scared of them. That's changed. They continue to be more and more and more interweaved into operations as a whole and playing as a real strategic partner there. I know for a fact it's not a prediction, and it does feel a little bit like you just gave me a softball to knock out of the park. The automation is going to continue to be a massive focus. It'll be interesting to see the long-term effects of this accounting and finance kind of pendulum, as I think you can automate a lot, if not the majority of the accounting roles. And then the just overall, I've talked a lot recently about just dynamic budgeting. We were moving in that direction, and then COVID happened, and we've discovered that the whole world can change quite literally overnight and your budget becomes laughable. Good, bad, or indifferent, either direction, and realizing kind of that flexibility and adaptability of making sure that that budgeting is dynamic to the terms of the world at that moment and of inflation up and down and everything else. So I think as far as trends, that's another really big thing that we're going to continue to see.
Right. I love those 3 bets, and we have it here, right? Automation, people, and moving beyond and getting to more agile budgeting, planning, and forecast. Melissa, we got you on that one. If people want to follow you, learn more about, connect with you, where can people follow you, learn more about you, and talk more about your journey?
Yeah, for sure. LinkedIn, you can look me up, Melissa Hurrington. I spend quite a bit of time on there throughout the day. I put very uncollected thoughts out there, whatever I'm feeling in the moment, learning lessons. I try to respond to any message that I get, comment, direct message, whatever it may be.
Highly recommend everybody go connect, follow, and follow everything that you're doing. You're an absolutely amazing CFO. So thank you so much. For all of those CFOs, that FP&A professionals that are really looking to, as Melissa talked about, be great storytellers, I would definitely go check out Collectiv and the entire team of Power BI experts, whether it's around the consulting, whether it's around the training, whether it's around the knowledge sharing. But definitely check in with Collectiv to take that quantitative information, be able to tell the story, and use a best-in-class tool like Power BI to help you translate and tell those stories. Melissa, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for watching another Collective Conversation. Make sure to tune in, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you have access and get all the new Collective Conversations. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.